No,
Yeah,
too much of me. Too much of me. Too much of me.
It's good.
Too much of me.
There we go. Look,
I hate.
nobody's watching.
I hate that it's live.
I love that it's live. It keeps you accountable. I'm good with that. I can handle it. I don't think you can.
I cannot handle it. This is not because I'm not. I don't want to be held accountable. Just I'm nervous.
5 people are watching, so now you gotta. 5 people are live.
I used to do. When I first started doing the podcast, I would always be nervous. And
Yeah.
then about 15 podcasts ago, I stopped getting nervous, and now I'm nervous again.
Because this is the first time you've gone live.
Yeah, I can't stand it. And you're in control of it, and it's on your shit. And what makes you nervous?
Oh shit! What makes me nervous in life or in CrossFit?
In anything. In anything. Like I was really
When
nervous.
when I think of being nervous, I think of the feeling of being in a helicopter with no control over what's going to happen next to you as you're approaching a target in Afghanistan or Iraq. Those are the times when I got nervous because I had zero control over the outcome. Until I get out, once I get out of the helicopter, I'm in control of my situation. I'm with the team, we can move. But inside the tin can of a helicopter, you're at the mercy of the pilot, who they're all highly trained, or some freak, shot being taken and taking the helicopter down. So inside, when you asked me that question, that's like where I went.
Immediately.
Yeah, that's when I was nervous.
My next question was going to be, do you play out scenarios of what makes you nervous? Like, so for me, I'm super nervous right now and anxious because I'm concerned the audio is not working, and I'm not going to know until I get home.
That sucks.
So I play out. So you do play out scenarios, and is the primary scenario of getting shot when you're in the air? Is that like the biggest?
No, that's not the primary scenario, but that's just what I thought of first. Nervous. What? Something when I do the open announcements, I get nervous. I don't want to fuck them up. So like, there's little nerves there, but I end up rehearsing them so much that I don't think I shouldn't. And I have fucked them up before. Little errors, saying the wrong number, saying the wrong order, but messing up there is different than messing up in combat.
Right. What about the first time you guys went live on ESPN? Did that make you nervous?
No. I think. I don't
Just
know what
on
that is.
cue. We've been in here
Yeah.
20 minutes setting up, no birds, and now there's a bird in the. Go on. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, the team does such a good job with those streams and with the environment. I think I got chewed out once by one of our team members for cussing on the live ESPN show. So I wasn't nervous. I was too comfortable.
What are the rules on that? I noticed in the last UFC fight there was a lot of swearing, and they usually bleep it out, but they didn't bleep it out last time.
Was that on the pay-per-view?
No, that was just on the regular UFC fight night on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe it's because ESPN Plus is a subscription or on the internet. Regular internet or regular ESPN would not allow that.
Where are we right now?
We're at the ranch, CrossFit Ranch, Aromas, California.
But tell me more. What goes on here? Tell me all the different things related to CrossFit that go on here.
That's a great qualifier related to CrossFit, because I could have taken that in a very different direction. Well, the first ever CrossFit Games were conducted here in 2007. That's the original leaderboard with the original winners and the original ranks for the 3 events. Then the second and third CrossFit Games were also conducted here. You actually did a documentary on the second Games. Then last year, because of COVID and all the shutdowns and restrictions, I guess it was the 14th Games came back here. Also a few years before that, for a single day event, we brought the athletes from Carson up to here for a single day event, which was an epic day on so many different levels.
When I worked with you, when we were colleagues, you used to work from home. You had an office at your house. You also worked from the office in Scotts Valley, and now this place has become your office. Like, we're in this big shed where all the demo stuff happens.
Yep.
Or at least it used to happen. And then tell me about that building over there.
Yeah, so right behind this wall is essentially a room where I've created my office and where I program. In San Diego, a place you didn't mention, I had my house that I worked out of, but I also had a facility, a couple thousand square feet, maybe 3,000, and we called it Yarrow because that was the street name, and it's where I did all the programming, and it's where I did all the testing. And throughout the years, as this has developed and as I've created more of a routine for creating any stage of the games, the open, the regionals back then, or the games, programming those workouts, I really need creative space. I do a lot of computer work at home or a lot of routine work at home, CrossFit work. I do some here too, but then there's a time when I have to just put all that aside and just have this creative zone for making the workouts and making the event. And that was in Yarrow years ago. Here, it's now here, behind the wall.
And how many days a week do you come here?
Oh, I come to the ranch. It's not how many days a week. The question should be how many times a day do I come here? I come here every day that I'm home, that I'm not on the road, anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day. 2 on a minimum, sometimes up to 4.
And how far do you live from here?
I live about 15 minutes away. That's a lot of people think I live here. My brother and his family, they still live here, but I don't live here.
And how many acres is the place?
65.
Tranquilo, you don't have to read my mind. Have you picked the demo team this year for the CrossFit Games?
No, but I just asked someone to be the DTC, and they couldn't do it. So I actually asked Paul to be the DTC.
What's the DTC?
The demo team captain.
Paul Tremblay?
Tremblay. I think he's been on the demo team like 8 or 9 times. So, and he finished 10th in Atlas. I think 9th or 10th. So,
I think 12th.
Okay. Still really good.
Yep.
So I thought I'd offer him the DTC position, and he couldn't take it. He has some other obligations going on that week, which is, for me, kind of disappointing because I was looking forward to working with him and having him on the team.
Is that heartbreaking for him? Is he like, holy shit, I could go out to the games and be demo team captain?
I don't know if it's heartbreaking for him. He seemed very genuinely, not upset, but he had other obligations that he committed to prior to being requested to do this. So he was very apologetic and said he'd love to help out any way he can, but I won't have someone half on that team. Like, it's going to be all in.
Did he tell you what he was doing? What's more important?
Yeah, it's with affiliate stuff. He's the country manager for CrossFit LLC.
So he'll be at the games.
Yes.
But he can't be.
Yes.
Oh, man. Hey, I think that's a mistake. I think it actually elevates the respect from the people that he's sort of the liaison for to HQ to see him out on the floor.
Fair enough.
Will you tell him that?
I'll tell him that.
Tell him that? Have him think about that? I mean, they want to see their boy out there, right?
Yeah,
They want to see their boy out there. Why? So, I was going to take you here later in the talk, but I want to talk about friendship and you.
Okay.
Why? And I'm going to make some presuppositions, and I know you have no problem unfucking me, so I don't apologize for doing it to you. Why don't you like people when you meet them? I'm not suggesting you dislike them. But when you meet people, why don't you like them? And the presupposition I'm making is that I know that about you.
Well, I would frame it publicly very differently than I don't like people when I meet them.
Uh-huh.
I would frame it as I have a natural guard up, and I have a natural tendency to not let people in very easily. I think people have to earn to have my trust and to have my friendship. It has to be earned through understanding and through respect and working together, and just I'm not as easy as like, hey, I just meet someone and now we're friends and I'm going to trust you through any situation or scenario. It is very much like I do have my guard up with people, and especially when you hit like in this position that I've had with CrossFit for a very long time, you know, oftentimes people want stuff from you. So you learn very quickly that like to kind of, I don't want to say expect that, but understand that might be coming. That being said, there's a level of like when I meet affiliates or when I meet trainers or when I meet people who are in the community, the truth is part of that's already broken down. Meaning by being an affiliate owner, like there's like
there's levels to this shit.
Yeah, exactly. You're a couple levels in at that point. And so like some of that of what I'm talking about is already naturally broken down because of your engagement in the community.
You said it's a natural guard. What do you mean by a natural guard? You're saying that you were born with that, or you're saying that like
it's natural to me now. I don't think I was born with it. It probably.
Were you picked on as a kid?
I wasn't picked on too much, maybe a little. I had a few moments, I think, but it probably stems from so much with me. Like when you unwind who I am and why I do things the way I do and how I lead the way I do, or how I push people the way I do, I mean, frankly, it comes from where I came from. You know, my whole young adult, the 20s through 30, 33, 32, that phase was defined by being a SEAL. And that was not an easy thing to do. And those were not easy people to be around. And those were not it wasn't a cakewalk. It was a really challenging and tough time where I had to perform at a high level, and people had high expectations of me. I had high expectations of those to my left or right. And you kind of build that. I built that at least from there. So if people question, why is he so hard, or why does he do this, or why is he rough around the edges, or whatever they say, unwind it, think back. And the truth is, though, and all of that being said, there's still been a ton of evolution in me, and you see that, and you know that, to how I was when you first met me to how I am now.
It's funny when you say the evolution. I don't think you've become more open when you meet people, but I think you're become less prickly. Like before, you were a cactus with big thorns, and if you got close to you got pricked.
Yeah.
Right? And the person bumped into you, and they came into your space. Now they can come into your space, and they might not feel anything, but you're still guarded. Why didn't you like me when I first started working at CrossFit? Can you remember?
Yeah, I think I didn't like you because you were a little too much. You're like really happy, and you were like everything was positive, and you were just trying to get in so quickly. And especially when people are trying to get in so quickly, or trying to make friends with me quickly, or our team quickly, you know, that's kind of a flag for me. Like, what's this guy's agenda? What's this guy want from us? In your case, you wanted more work. You wanted to be filming stuff. You wanted to work the games. And so I naturally had a guard up for you.
And that turned into a little bit of dislike.
I wouldn't say it was dislike. I saw at a point, I didn't dislike you, but I saw I was gonna test you. And I was gonna test you through tossing you in the fire with adversity, and my level of adversity being a little rough love.
This guarded mentality, this pre-Navy SEAL Dave, was he a good fit for the SEALs and it just solidified it and made you grow as the same person? Or did this Dave that entered the SEALs have to change a ton? Or were you like, did you go to the SEALs and you're like, wow, this is the fertilizer and water that my character's already designed for and I can use? Well,
my dad was pretty, I don't want to say hard, but he was pretty stern, he loved me, of course, but he was also, it was a unique relationship that I think prepared me for that environment, and prepared me for just going into the fire and not being coddled. And growing up here, even, like, I wasn't coddled or it wasn't that, I wouldn't say easy. He didn't, it's funny, Greg once said, your dad must have been a really fucking good guy. And I said, why do you say that? And he said, because of how you came out. And like, Greg, like, that clicked. I'm like, oh shit, like, I didn't always think he was the best father, but it was like, yeah, he did some good thing. Yeah, he did something right. And that, when Greg said that to me, like, that resonated, and it was powerful.
Was Greg's dad a good guy?
Ask Greg. Great question.
Oh man. This is a 65 acre ranch, and I don't think people who live in a metropolis or in a city have kind of like no idea what it's like here. That this is like, it's hot.
Yeah.
There's mountain lions.
Yeah.
There's wild pigs.
Yep.
I'm assuming you didn't grow up. Did you play out here as a child?
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
Did
I played out here a lot.
You weren't around watching TV.
I did. I liked watching football. I remember watching the Dolphins growing up here as a diehard.
Did they have
Dolphins
cable
fan.
out here?
Yeah, we did. We had satellite TV. We had the big fucking dish, one of those giant dishes back in the day.
And you have to have that out here. I don't think people realize, like, we are in what you used to like to brag to me about is Steinbeck country.
Yes, exactly.
Like, we are in the agricultural capital of the world.
I didn't, after school, like, I wasn't hanging out with my friends. I wasn't in the city doing things. I wasn't like, I came here and I was here. It was almost a pretty, I don't want to say sheltered, but almost pretty isolated life. And
Not sheltered in the traditional sense by any means.
no, yeah, exactly. Wide open, super. I used to run around playing G.I. Joe and shit like that. You know what I mean? I remember taking my little guy and throwing him off the barn with the parachute, thinking maybe I should build a little parachute and jump off the shed. Really glad I didn't do that.
Did you play with your brother a lot?
No, he was 7 years older than me. And so we, growing up, weren't that close.
Did you have friends here? Come here?
Yeah, I did.
Did you do sleepovers?
Occasionally.
Are both your parents Mexican?
Yeah.
And were they born here?
Yes, one was born in the Bay Area, and they were both born. And I think my mom was born in Texas.
Are they first generation?
Yes.
So they crossed
So
the border?
no. I'm sorry. So their parents were from Mexico.
And do you know why they came?
No.
And do you...
Probably to come for a better life, I assume.
And how did your mom and dad meet, do you know?
No.
You don't know or you don't want to tell me?
I don't really want to. Let's move on.
How did you meet your wife?
Don't want to talk about it.
How much do you spend time with your family every day?
Yeah, a lot.
And I know we've talked about this before, you like to keep them private.
Yep.
Don't you think that, do you mind being misunderstood?
Oh, I don't care. Like,
You don't?
I don't have anything to explain to anyone. Like, being misunderstood, does not bother me at all. Being over-understood does not bother me at all. The people that it matters to are those closest to me, and everyone else, honestly, like, I could give a fuck about. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care what people think about me, almost to a fault. And I think that also puts me in a pretty good position because I don't make decisions for the popular reasons. I make them for the right reasons. I was talking about this with some affiliates the other day. Like, the toughest thing to do or the toughest stance to take is doing the right thing and not the popular thing. And
that needs to be explored. But go on.
Because
go on.
I don't care so much about what people think, I don't have much of a problem doing the right thing. What I believe to be the right thing, which necessarily isn't always the popular thing.
I don't want people to misunderstand you too, because I worked with you for 15 years and you, more than anyone else in the company, maybe Bruce is pretty good at it too, but you were definitely the best, would have roundtables to take feedback.
It also doesn't mean, It also doesn't mean I'm not afraid of, or I'm not collaborative, or I don't listen to the team.
Right.
It just means you might listen to the team, you might take everything in, and the overwhelming majority of people might be saying, hey, this is not popular, so we shouldn't do it. And that's where I would take the stance of, but we all know it's the right call. We all know it's the right thing to do, so therefore we should.
I don't know if this matters or not, but in my understanding...
There's a great example recently.
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
No, I'm not going to say it. You might figure it out. You might call it out, but there's a great example. Keep going.
Of being misunderstood?
No, of the other piece, but I'm not going to bring it up. You have to figure it out. Keep going. Keep going.
So I've known you since before there was social media, and so I've seen people's perception of you, and then social media came, and then I see people's perception of you.
Yeah.
And it's so weird. It's like when people talk about you, it's like talking about the moon, but you've only ever seen the dark side of the moon. Like I know people who are talking about you who've never seen your face, metaphorically speaking.
Yeah.
They've stared at your back the entire fucking time, and they just think that you're an ass.
Yep.
Because that's all they see.
Yep.
And I guess maybe I fall in the same boat as you. I wonder if this is for you. It's harder for me to see people do that to you than to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny.
Like people are like, dude, he has no face. He's just an ass. And it's preposterous. Mm-hmm. It's preposterous.
It is on so many levels.
And
I also have no desire to, like, if you feel that way, that's fine. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. Your mind's made up. See me through my actions, and obviously the actions you've seen, you have a negative opinion of, and you dislike me for, and that's fine.
Or even positive. I don't even care whether it's positive or negative. It's the same people who've only seen the front side of you. You know what I mean? It's just like, Jesus, dude, like.
Yep. Well, it's a super unique position to be in, because it's incredibly high profile in our community. In our community, it's a high profile position to be in, and early on, I mean, I started working for CrossFit in 2006. '07, '08, I started feeling the heat. And like I started feeling the pressure, and like you start seeing people talk about you or not disagreeing with what you're doing or disagreeing with how you're doing it. So by 2010, it was just super common, and I was just, that's another thing people forget, like especially leadership on our own team. Hey, I've been doing this for 15, 16 years. So like a decade ago, I was over all the negativity.
You've built a callus.
Yeah, a decade ago, I was over all the negative. I had been beat up enough.
And you can distinguish between unsubstantiated negativity and stuff that might be valid.
For sure.
I don't like Dave's cornrows. Not valid.
Who cares? People still talk about that and say that, and I don't care.
And I can't think of any substantiated ones. I would like to circle back on people who it's kind of interesting. There's people who've made a career out of just complaining about you and CrossFit, but we'll get to that in a second.
Well, before that, and concurrently, there was a group of people who made a career out of just coming after CrossFit. There was a good phase where if you wanted to become a name or you wanted to get some attention, write an attack piece on CrossFit. Come out, say how dangerous it is, say how dumb it is to do high rep Olympic weightlifting. And at those phases when you were doing that because you were desperate for relevancy and attention. And you don't see that as much now. But yeah, towards me, you definitely see that. There's people who want to get attention. So hey, how can I get clickbait? How can I get people to watch my show or to talk about me? Talk shit about Dave. Say how he's doing everything wrong.
I personally don't think that they're doing it for clickbait. I think that I think they're so bummed that they've been in the space so long and they still haven't gotten close to you, and so they're the boy in kindergarten who's calling the girl names that he likes. And they've become myopic, singularly focused on you. So if you have a hair out of place, they have to comment on it. They've made you their life. That's what I think. I don't think it's even for clickbait. I don't think they can stop.
Okay.
But maybe I'm naive. When I first met you and I would interview you, you wouldn't even let me, if we even talked about your career in the military, like you just said. I know I saw that dirt. I was wondering if I should tell you, but it kind of made you look tough.
I was shooting earlier.
Made you look tough.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even let us say you were a SEAL.
Yeah, that was during the phase of 2007, 6 to 2010, because I was active duty. And I really didn't want to talk about it, and I really didn't want it to be out there while I was active duty. Even when I got out, I still wanted to keep it very low profile and not talk about it much. Now in the past 3 or 4 years, I'm way more comfortable with it being known, but I'm not more comfortable with like diving into it or telling war stories or trying to leverage it or profit off of it. You'll never see me lead on my Instagram account in the bio or in the title with former Navy SEAL. You'll never see me like leverage that because that's just how I've chosen to represent myself with it.
I used to think you were cool for that.
Now you don't?
I just don't. When I don't. I understand a little bit of the code that you shared with me, the silent professional, but you did it and you earned it. It's like, let's look at Matt Fraser. He has this great success.
But that's very different.
And now he's leveraging
it.
You did a great thing.
But he did it in an area, in a world where being public and being in a sport with it was acceptable and the norm. I did it in a world where we were talking about and understood what it meant to be a silent professional, and we would joke around and talk about, oh, you're going to write a book when you get out, aren't you? And we'd make fun of those guys. And we knew a lot of the things we did or were going to do or trained for or could potentially do, we could never talk about or should never talk about or never air out. And so I was in an environment, you can't compare me to Matt Fraser on this one.
But here's the thing, Matt did it for himself. I have no issue with that. All the
Matt
games
did
athletes,
what for himself?
All the games athletes do it for themselves. They're trying to win.
Yeah, but it's a public sport. It's very different.
But you did it for other people, so why can't you talk about it? And I think
because I don't want to. So
I'm okay with you saying this, but you're saying it's just the code and it's normal. I'm trying to figure out if there's any rationale behind it, or if it's just like, hey, football players.
Some of it is classified. So there is that, you know what I mean? And so there's that level. And another thing is like, you're right to the extent of like,
we want to hear it.
I don't want to talk about it. There's guys to my left and right who I don't want to betray, that I went to war with, and I don't want to talk about this stuff to lose their trust. Some of the teams and some of the places I've worked before, I still get invited back to the reunions, and I'm still close with some of the guys, and that means a lot to me, and that matters. And as soon as if I crossed a certain line, I would lose that, and I don't want to lose that.
Okay. So if you don't necessarily give a fuck what bad people say about you in the world, you do care about the one group of people you do care about is your SEAL brothers.
Yeah, that's a good way to wrap this discussion up, this part of the discussion.
When you were a kid, did you carry a comb in your back pocket?
When I was what?
Did you ever carry a comb in your back pocket?
No, because my hair doesn't like slick back like that.
Did you ever carry a brush in your back pocket?
No.
Did you ever brush or comb your hair a lot?
No.
Never.
My hair always like does this thing where it falls forward or goes to the side, and I really did want it to go back, but it never would, so I just let it go.
Like a Garrett Fisher type?
Yeah, not a Garrett Fisher type.
So were you ever preoccupied with your looks as a kid? Like in the 7th or 8th grade, would you be like, hey, there's a girl I like and I want to be dressed good and put on deodorant?
No, I wasn't preoccupied with my looks, but I wasn't also confident as a kid. I didn't have much.
Because that is one thing I definitely noticed about you over the 15 years. I'm like, this guy doesn't fucking care. Like he'll come out and he's like, you just never cared.
What do you mean by that?
It was indicative of what I imagine a bunch of dudes hanging out together who haven't showered in a year. Like after a while, like it's all to the wayside. Like I don't care. Like like when I was in 8th grade, if I wore a hat to school and someone took my hat off, I would be fucking devastated. Someone would see my hat head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're if you're in the Navy, that's absurd.
Yeah, for sure.
That's absurd. One of the things I always liked about when you talked about games and the programming and when I would suggest programs, events to you and you tell me shut the fuck up, gracefully and nicely, kindly, you would explain to me the difference between gimmicks and workouts.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit? I know we've talked about that before.
Some of the things you used to suggest.
Let's not use me as an example.
Like digging of holes and like digging out of a thing. Like that's kind of gimmicky. Our stuff is very defined, moving large loads, long distances quickly, through barbell movements, through a lot of body weight movements, through implements that can generate and express high amounts of power through a certain range of motion in a sense that a lot of our athletes train for. It doesn't mean we can't ever take or go to places like that, digging or moving sandbags or hammering a spike, but those have to be done intelligently and very infrequently. Like it can't be a whole CrossFit Games of just shit like that. Like there's got to be a good bias towards CrossFit and this style of training, and and not too much of that, because some of the stuff we've done, you could argue, well, you might say, well, you're saying this about my example, but what about that when you did this, like the sledge thing, that was kind of gimmicky. Sure, it's still a functional movement, but it also was one instance of 12 or 13 different events where it was okay to do that at that point. So that stuff is, when you do see things like that, or when we do consider stuff like that, it's very intentional and not haphazard.
And you know what's funny about that? If you did the sledge hit, the hammer hit, like inside of a stadium with inside of beautiful sand boxes, it would look gimmicky. But you did it right out here on 65 acres of just...
Yeah.
It
well, and I was talking about the sledge thing, the implement we'd use at the games where we'd hit between the legs.
The green thing.
The green thing,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But I was also talking about that.
When through the years, different modalities were introduced, right? So the first games were out of the hopper, and then there were the 2008 games, and then somewhere along the line, swimming was introduced, right?
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other specific things, and now since the first year swimming was introduced, it's been in the games every year, correct?
Yeah.
Do you ever see, like, what would it take for backflips to be in the game? Would you have to see that, like, 80% of the people at affiliates are doing backflips in their programming? Or are you influenced by that?
Not necessarily, because look at the year we threw 100-pound snatches in the regionals. Really, nobody was doing that weight at that time, so we just kind of took it there. I don't need to see people doing things to add things Sometimes it's looking at the current level of where that degree of community is, how far they are in their progressions through things, and sometimes it's rolling the dice and trying new things. And I don't have any good examples for you.
Is there anything out there that you know that you would like to add to the games, but you just don't think it's time?
Well, do you mean like narrow me in a little?
So 1 year you brought in biking.
Okay.
And now we've seen the bike several times, right?
Yep.
And you brought in swimming. Is there another, are you like, man, the pogo stick would be really fucking amazing? Or I don't have an example.
Let's think of some physical
Or like
things.
shooting. Like people are always talking about shooting.
Shooting will never be.
I understand it won't be in, and I understand
Yeah.
the pogo stick won't be in. But is there this thing that you're like see on the horizon that you're like, hey, this is a movement that we need to be having?
Well, check this out.
Okay.
I guarantee you this. If there was or it is, I'm not going to tell you right now.
Okay. But you don't have to tell me what it is. You don't have to tell me it's pogo sticking. I'm saying, is there...
Answer, you know what? Ask me that question after this year's games. You
Okay.
answer that question for yourself after this year's games.
Oh.
Deal? Okay.
So there's something special coming this year.
Just let's revisit this topic.
Why wouldn't you have basketball shooting in the games?
Well, okay, that's a great question. What's the physical? It's very highly, there's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of practice that makes you a good basketball shooter. But across the field of, you look at people coming from different countries where they don't really play basketball or probably never been exposed to basketball, it would be incredibly unfair to them. If you're going to do something like that, well, let's go back to baseball throwing, the year we did baseball throwing. A throw is at least way more fundamental and foundational and functional, because everybody at some point has taken an object and thrown it, except for Chris Spiller and Jason Khalifa. They obviously never threw anything. But basketball is so sport specific, or shooting a basketball, and so relegated to that, to a specific realm, a specific skill set. It would be largely unfair to the entire field, especially if you've never shot a basketball, especially if you've never shown interest in doing that. Think of the other things that we've introduced. Think of something wild that we've introduced. Bring something up.
Something that you have introduced?
That we have. That was off the wall.
I don't know if it was off the wall, but L-sits, there was the baseball throw.
Okay.
There was the hit sledgehammer out here.
L-sit, let's talk about the L-sit since
Okay.
you brought that one up. Everyone can do that. That doesn't take any skill. That does take skill, but it takes more strength and more adaptation. And everyone can do the L-sit, and everyone trains their core and trains movements like that in CrossFit. So even though that might have been the first time in an event they saw it, it wasn't too outside the spectrum of being able to have people perform at a high level who don't have much training or exposure in it. Sledge, that was kind of, swinging a sledge. Firefighters definitely had an advantage. But again, the skill in doing this versus the skill in being accurate from 15 feet away and shooting a basketball are vastly different. Even take when we introduced the paddleboard. I'll help you out on this one.
Thank you.
The paddleboard in the games. Everyone could lay down on that thing and everyone could do this, right? Mm-hmm. Like some people were able to get up on their knees and show a little more skill and experience, like how they do it. The experienced paddleboarders do it. What have we not introduced similarly related to that paddleboard?
Surfing.
Yeah, that too. A stand-up paddleboard.
Oh.
So
but didn't they have the option?
No, they didn't have an option to stand up.
Okay.
The stand-up paddleboard would take more skill specific to that sport and to that, way more than asking people who've never been in the ocean or never been on a paddleboard to lay down on a paddleboard and just paddle.
Was that debated in the team?
No, not at all. I just was resolute in that decision and knew hey, we're not doing stand-up paddleboarding, we're doing prone paddleboarding. Because you could take someone from the Midwest who's never been to the ocean, who's never been on the water, let's say the open water, and take people from all over the world, put them on that thing, lay down, and use your arms, and make it happen.
Go back to the demo team here for a second. You said that I asked you if you have a demo team yet, and then you responded with, I asked Paul Tremblay to be the DTC demo team captain.
Yes.
But what about that doesn't answer the question. If whoever you pick as a captain, do they get to pick the team?
No, the captain doesn't get to pick the team. We don't have the team picked yet. We have some ideas for people who we want to pick, but remember, there's a last chance qualifier coming up. So there's still a good number of athletes who have one more chance to qualify for the games, and a good number of maybe all of them, maybe a few, maybe none of the demo team might come from that group of people who still is yet to be completely out.
Who is? Give me one person that you'd like to invite on the demo team.
I mean, I don't want to it'll become official here. I don't want to make it official.
Come on, just one.
I told you we asked Paul Tremblay. He said no.
Oh, that was good. You did. Thank you. Who else did you ask that said no?
That's it.
Has anyone ever said no before?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe I should ask Matt to be on it.
Fraser.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be good. I think he's going to be too busy selling Podium at the games.
What's that?
That's his flavored drink. His.
Oh, Get Big drink?
Yeah, Get Big. His nutritional supplement.
Okay.
That was another thing to talk about Matt Fraser when there was that kerfuffle between you guys, internet kerfuffle. That was one of those things that I saw, and the only reason why it looked weird is because it was public. When I realized that everyone I know who's in your circle also went through that with you. That's part of the dance to get to know Dave. There's gonna you can't be sensitive. There's a pushing in period past the prickly. The prickly side, and all these people were losing their shit, and I'm just like it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just big boys, just big boys, just doing their shit.
Yep.
Dancing.
That's one way to look at it.
What will be at the games every single year? So I'll start you off. Swimming.
Not necessarily. I mean, you're making that assumption. I'm not
Yes.
saying that.
So you can't say that.
I won't say that.
There will be CrossFit
there will
workouts.
be classic CrossFit workouts every year at the CrossFit Games.
And when you say classic CrossFit workouts, you're not just saying a hero WOD or a girl WOD.
No.
You're saying couplets, triplets.
Yeah, they could be new workouts that haven't been seen, new tests that haven't been seen.
When you do the classic CrossFit workouts, they're always with heavier weights.
Not necessarily.
No?
No, not necessarily. We did Randy a few years ago at regionals, and it was 75 pounds, 75 reps at 75 pounds. We deliberately and intentionally do workouts that aren't always scaled up in weight. Sometimes we do, though. You're right, but not always.
Would you ever do Fran at its regular weight ever again?
Yeah, I don't see. Yeah, of course, for sure.
You don't see that and be like, hey, it's pointless to do it 95 pounds for these animals.
No.
Why are the team athletes, another presupposition, bigger than the individual athletes?
The team?
Team. Both the women and men look bigger.
Yeah.
Do you guys not drug test those guys?
No, we do. We drug test.
That was just a cheap shot.
Yeah, it was. I'd like to see, I'd like to take stats on that. I think you're right. When you look oftentimes when you look at that field, those guys look way bigger. I don't necessarily think the girls do, but I think the guys look much bigger on teams than individuals. But I'd really like to break that down and put some actual numbers behind it and see how much bigger they are. If there was a reason why, maybe it's because we have so much worm work, and maybe it's because spread across 4 people, that ideal smaller frame necessarily isn't ideal smaller frame for a man. Shorter, thicker, not necessarily tall, like Jason, what's his name?
Khalipa.
Not Khalipa.
Hopper.
Like Jason Hopper's a big dude. So maybe he'll break that mold of smaller guy doing well at the games. He looks more like a team member at the CrossFit Games than to your point.
Right. Yeah, when you said the way you said team guy, you can't ever say team guy, and
I know.
You always have to clarify.
I know.
Because even how it comes out of your mouth, there's a shift. When Froning came on the scene, I don't remember where you were. I think you were on the East Coast somewhere, and you were at a competition, and I think we talked, and you were at the airport, and you said, "Hey, dude, there's a guy here," and I'm like,
I think it was Jackson. It was a sectional in Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure. Keep going.
And basically, you said, "There's a guy here."
Yeah.
And you never say that.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you were hearing every day from one of your trainers, we have the next games
Yeah,
winner. We have
yeah.
the next games winner, right?
Yeah.
And then I believe when we were at the Reebok event when Matt was first there, the first time Matt was there, you're like, oh shit, they've got another one on the horizon. And those are the only two guys I ever heard you say anything about.
To be fair, I also said it about Vellner.
Okay.
When I saw him at the Northeast Regional, and he injured his bicep, I think it was, and I was like, oh, this guy's done. He's not going to be able to make it through the weekend. And then he went through and still crushed the weekend. And I was like, wow, this guy's legit. And he's well-rounded. And I felt like he was seriously the only dude who can give Matt a run for his money. And he kind of did fill that position for a brief period. Since in the past couple of years, it hasn't panned out as well for him. It looks like he did really good at the Atlas Games, so maybe he's poised to do something special at the Games this year. But early on, I felt strongly about him in that role. Then it kind of, for me, faded.
And then what do you think about the Jason Hopper kid?
I'm fucking super impressed. Super impressed. I think everyone should take notice. Now it's just a matter of seeing how he performs in this environment with a big breadth of tests, a wider variety of tests that are going to challenge him in many different ways than he was at that level. And so,
and the semifinals are more different than the games in a variety of different ways, more different than they were 5 years ago. So it would have been easier to say, hey, what I saw Rich do will transfer well to the games. Now it's a little harder. Because,
not necessarily, because all the events, here's where I'm looking at it from. Even back then, all of the events to qualify people to the games, for the most part, I don't know how sanctionals were because I didn't pay attention to their programming, but were like 6 or 7 events, right? So here's what I'm saying. He did great, thrived in that environment of 6 or 7 events. You look at historically what we do at the CrossFit Games, it's typically 4 days, and you're looking at 10 to 14 events. So how's his body going to respond to double the amount of tests with vastly different things in a way high pressure moment where the entire CrossFit community who cares about the sport is tuned in and watching? I think he'll do fine. You know who did great as a rookie? Ricky Gerard. But there was that.
He did great as a games athlete too.
That's what I mean, as a games athlete rookie. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, right.
At the games, as a rookie, he did great. And
so if Hopper takes second place, he's juicing?
I didn't say that. No, I did not say that.
Just doing algebra, buddy. I'm just doing algebra.
So my point is, there can be a rookie like that who can come on the scene and do great. And I'm going to have to see. Let's see. And the first couple years Matt was at the games, he looked great, but he didn't win. He lost 1 year to Ben, and then he lost another year to Rich. It might have been flipped back. It might have been Rich then Ben. I don't remember. Yeah, Rich then Ben. And in each of those, he was kind of exposed in terms of a weakness, and then he fixed it, and it wasn't a weakness anymore. The year he lost to Ben, the weakness was rope climbs, legless rope climbs.
The little bit I did speak to Jason Hopper, I've spoke to him twice. And I am naive because I'm the kind of person who believes first and
there's this proximity bias that goes on in our community where people get really close to their little athlete and watch them and see everything they're doing and they're like, man, this guy's gonna win. This guy, he's so great. You don't see him in training. You have no idea. No, he's something special. Yeah, you know what? There's 50 of those also happening at the same time. I remember during 333, someone said that about Jason Khalipa. Basically, someone said at the games, a well-known personality pulled me aside and said, hey, Jason Khalipa is going to win 333. And I'm like, there's no way, he's too big. And they're like, no, you should see him in training. He's putting all the time and all the effort in, he's going to crush this. And I mean, yeah, he might have improved his endurance stuff and his running a lot, but in that varied of a field where there's guys who are naturally way lighter and much better runners, yeah, he didn't win.
Was that the year they did the row marathon too?
No, the row marathon was in Madison. 333 was a Carson event. 333 was
then what was the row event they did in Carson?
Row a marathon.
Oh, and the 333 was in Madison is what you're saying?
No. Half marathon in Carson.
Oh, okay.
333 in Carson.
And were those the same games?
I don't think so.
I only ask because that games Jason and Garrett and Neil,
I don't know.
Neil
I don't
Maddox
remember.
came out crazy strong. They were basically 1, 2, 3 for the first day.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So when I talk to these guys, well, to kind of ride your coattails on that. When I talk to athletes, like even when I talk to Hopper, he basically is telling me like about this guy Taylor Self, who beats him in workouts but didn't qualify for the games. And I remember speaking to Graham Holmberg and other people, you know, who were great CrossFitters. And they'd be like, "Dude, my training partner always beats me here."
You know who wouldn't talk like that?
Matt
Or Rich.
or Rich.
Yeah, no one was beating them.
Right.
That's the level these guys. That's the level you need to be to win. Tia now at this point, for the most part. Like, I don't know what Tia would say on that topic, but like I have heard Matt say stuff like that, and Rich for sure, he would say like no one was beating them. No one was beating those guys in their gym, you know. So, to win the games and to win them year after year, you have to get to that point where basically nobody's beating you, and that's where those guys were.
The games have gone through so much change, 18, 19, 20. Do you feel it's hard even to compare them to each other? Like, I know you, so I feel like you might think that it's messy right now.
I don't compare them against each other. All I think of is, all right, new year, push it forward. What's going to happen? What are we going to do differently? How are we going to make it better? I'm never really looking back at the games and comparing or seeing. I'll look at workouts for ideas or see what we've done or see trends, but I'm not thinking of comparing them.
Why don't you watch the sanctionals?
Well, when we had them, I didn't watch them because I don't like.
Sorry, or the semifinals.
Oh, I do watch the semifinals.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you watch the sanctionals?
I didn't watch the sanctionals because it was outside of our control and not really our events. And you know, they got one spot, and other than that, to the games. And other than that, and there was a lot of them. They weren't really our. We weren't overseeing them. The semifinals we're working closely with, and we have a great relationship with. We qualify a lot more people to the games, and it's way more of a partnership, let's say. And we're streaming them, and we're handling the broadcast. So I closely watch those because we're way more involved. I struggle watching them because I struggle going to those events. And this will also tie into why I didn't watch sanctionals. Well, because when I created this sport. And like everything we're doing, it feels like I have had a hand in, and like the direction we've gone, how it's laid out, what we do, and we set the trend for a lot of people to do what we've done. It's tough to be there at those events. I would go to semifinals this year and only be there for a couple hours, and then move on to the next one or travel home. Actually, this year is travel home. Just because I don't like being there not engaged or not being able to really dive in and really change things and really make things better. Also, I didn't watch the sanctionals because when I have free time or for enjoyment, I don't do more CrossFit. I don't watch more CrossFit. I don't tune in, and like when I want to take a break or I want to do something else, I completely pull out. Like it's not CrossFit that I'm engaging in as my passion or or with my time off. And that's a good balance. Like I don't want to just always be, okay, I have some free time. Let me travel to the Wadapalooza. You know what I mean? Like I'm not talking anything negative about them, but I'm just saying like.
Well, you did go to 100 affiliates in San Diego one time.
But that's very different.
You did 100 affiliates in 100 days.
I worked out at every single one. I don't think it was quite 100 days. What I wanted to do was work out every affiliate.
In San Diego County.
In San Diego County. And that's very different. That's like to show support to the trainers, to show support to the affiliates, to show support to the community.
But you didn't have to do that. That wasn't part of your job description.
No, but it was just a nice little challenge. And like I'm really close with, I like really care about the affiliates and their success because I feel like, I was doing this when there was like 20 or 30. And when I was running training for the last decade and a half, basically our program literally touches every affiliate out there. If you were an affiliate, you went through a course that I probably scheduled, that I scheduled and staffed.
You're not on the training team anymore. And how long has that been?
Since Rosa took over.
And I've heard you talk on other podcasts that you miss that.
Yeah, I totally miss it.
You still miss it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't go away?
No, it hasn't gone away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I miss that.
Because I used to be the executive director of CrossFit Media.
Do you miss it?
No.
I still miss the training, now called education. I still miss that aspect of not being heavily involved. I still talk with Nicole a lot, and I still share ideas or my thoughts with her on how it's going.
Has it made you less? Has it made you worse at the job that you do have? Like that it would be better that if you had your feet in both, that it would actually make you better? That being like they say about all the Nobel Prize winners, even though they're specialists, they had a wide range. They're not super specialists like the guy, because super specialists, there's no innovation.
Yeah.
There's no creativity.
Yeah.
And the guys who are like coming up with the cures for all of this stuff, they have multiple fields and multiple disciplines. Do you feel like that's affected you at all? Like it's made you too myopic on the games and like?
No, because I'm still kept really busy, like arguably more busy, not more, but very busy with just what we're responsible for. This is led very differently than how Greg led, and like, meetings and calls and priorities, and just like, we got a lot going on. And the growth that Eric and the team wants to have out of sport, where Greg didn't give a shit about what we did in the games and only wanted us doing the games, Eric and obviously this new team really do care about it and want to grow it. So it's good. It's the right decision that I'm in sport and that Nicole's just running education and I'm not there anymore, but I still miss it. It's the right way to have set it up, yes.
Okay. So you're not isolated?
No.
You haven't been marginalized?
Well, I have not, I don't think, been marginalized, but I kind of do view it, I kind of do view it as a professional marginalization because, so then there was 3 big line of businesses for CrossFit: affiliates, training, and games. 2 of them I ran, the other I did not. There's those 3.
But you were heavily involved still.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was at CrossFit, you had your hands everywhere.
Yeah, I definitely did. Now, instead of the 2, it's
in
the
a good
1.
way, by the way.
Well, and interestingly, so there was the 3. I was in charge of 2. And then for a brief period, basically, about 1 year ago today, I was in charge of them all, CEO. And then now I'm just in charge of 1. So it's not meant that way, but I kind of look at it like, I have a lot less responsibility than I have had in the past. Although I also have a lot of responsibility.
When we were working together, Greg was the CEO and founder, and he was clearly our leader, and he led the company, and he had a really strong vision. But
he ran the company.
He ran the company, and he had a really strong vision, and there wasn't an official number 2. We never, we didn't have that. No one knew, but on behalf of everyone who worked there, and I don't care if they don't agree with me because I'm right. If people needed leadership, because when you only have one person at the top and you haven't delegated it, people would always come to you.
At the higher level, yes.
Yeah, all the department heads would come to you. Like you were the guy. You were the guy, and it was unofficial, and it wasn't because you were a bully. It's just because they recognized leadership, and everyone needs leadership. Does everyone need leadership?
I don't know if everyone does. A lot of people do. I don't know if everyone does.
Okay.
Some people really want it. Some people don't want it as much. Some people want to be left free to kind of do things on their own. It's specific to individuals.
Do you need leadership? Do you need it?
Need, no. No.
Are you a leadership challenge?
At times, but in a very constructive and positive way for the outcome. Maybe not a constructive and positive way in the delivery of the message, but for where we're going.
So you need a strong leader.
Sure.
I know this is a little out of your realm. I know you're not running the media department at CrossFit, but in 2018, and I could be wrong, but my timeline could be off, but the spirit of my story will be correct. They turned off social media at CrossFit Inc. They turned off Facebook and Instagram. We noticed an immediate, 30% decline in all our numbers. Metrics started plummeting, and we got rid of the entire media team except for 5 or 6 people, including myself. And that was a really hard time, because was that a hard time for you?
Yeah.
And it was a hard time for me because it was so fun speaking to the world, and we had just all of a sudden completely lost our voice. And there was this really small group who was excited because they spun the narrative that, hey, this is awesome, they're open to other people talking. When I feel like we were always open to other people talking, who are we to stop anyone? Yes, we would have discourses. If you said something that wasn't true, we would come back at you. But I don't ever feel like we put our foot on anyone's neck. So then you become CEO, And what's funny is some people said, oh, he's just a puppet of Greg's. Well, Greg was adamantly against rebuilding the media team. And your first day of being the CEO, you told me get the machine start going, put gasoline in the engine, oil it, and let's start producing content.
He was adamant against a lot of the things I did, but it didn't stop me.
Right.
And that's the thing. If you know me well, if there's one thing I'm not for anyone, it's a puppet. So that comment that people were saying was, that pissed me off. Maybe it was racially charged. Maybe it's because I'm Mexican. How could I be in charge?
No, they don't.
It's racially charged. I was a
They called
puppet
you
of
a
the white
whitey.
man.
They called you a
They
whitey.
did, because I had position and authority. I was all of a sudden white.
He's Mexican. So then we start building up the media team. We start doing the testimonials again. We start basically celebrating the affiliates again, is how I would describe it. That was basically our goal, to celebrate the affiliates and roll the red carpet out as far as we could out into the world, so that we can entice people to find their home at the CrossFit affiliate and build health and community and support and all of that. And it was an exciting time. I don't know if you were CEO for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, but then shit hit the fan and Greg sold the company and ran off rich as shit.
Yep.
And even richer than that.
Yeah.
Now, society was closed. Society has been shut down for 12 months, 15 months. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
And I felt like there was a tremendous opportunity for CrossFit to put out media during that time, because Netflix numbers have skyrocketed. And maybe I'm just blind, but I'm not seeing any effort to put together media and rally the community. It just seems like an enormous
being made.
It seems like an enormous missed opportunity.
There's definitely media being made, and then you look at what we're doing on the game side. There's a lot of content and a lot of media being made. That's one aspect of it. The current media team has done some original content. I've voiced that I think we should be doing a lot more, as you're saying. I think we'll get to that place. We're not there yet, but we need to. There's this in people.
And I'm not saying it is a critical thing.
Let me just
okay.
finish.
Okay.
I was talking to some affiliates this weekend, and they were talking about all these things we can do and should do, and eventually might do. But all of this stuff takes a lot of time, and all of this, Eric's been running it, and this team's been running it for a year. That's a long time, and it's not at all a long time. There's just
right.
Things take time to put in motion and to roll with and to get committed to, and so this is still in its infancy, and there's still a lot of things that we'll do and things we'll do differently and things to come that there's 100 things I would have liked to snap my fingers to and say, let's just start doing this, but it doesn't work that way, and so.
Well, if you know anyone and you want to pass my advice up to the top, a lot of people are still stuck in their homes and scared, and they would love, and people are now working from home. The whole dynamic of how much time people spend at home has changed dramatically. Let
me do a scrub of your social media and see how you are publicly facing, and then I'll get back to you.
No, you don't want me for the job. You don't want me for the job. I'm unemployable. But it would be fantastic for the affiliates, in my opinion, and for the community, if you guys just ratcheted up the media machine 1,000-fold and gave people content to stare at.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about before? Because we're reaching an hour. There's a couple fun things I'm going to ask you here.
You do fun things?
I do.
Okay, let's just go to your fun things.
Josh and Jacob. Just tell me who's going to win, just right off the top of your head, without thinking about it, and then we'll go into it.
Josh.
How biased are you because he's a SEAL and your buddy, sort of buddy, as close as anyone can get to you?
A lot, for sure, because I know that mindset he has from having been there too and having gone through the type of training that we have. He's a fucking killer, and he'll have a switch where he'll go there. I don't know if Jacob has that. I mean, Jacob's a great guy. Jacob's a funny guy, but funny guys don't win fights. Loving guys don't win fights. Josh has gone through the training to be a killer.
You're saying Josh has issues?
I'm not saying he has issues. I'm saying he's gone through specific training to train you to prepare for battle, to prepare for combat, to a degree to where you can die. This is not. This is sport. And so that mental edge is significant. Josh has gone on combat deployments overseas where he's left that helicopter or got out of that vehicle and he's known, hey, people might be shooting at me, I might die. That advantage there is significant. Hepner's never had anything like that.
Okay, who would you say is a better athlete?
Well, athletically, from what I've seen, Josh is a more experienced boxer. Obviously, Hepner is very new to this. Physically, as a CrossFitter, Hepner's a better CrossFitter. That doesn't play well for Josh, but I think that'll be washed out by his better boxing skill and this mindset that I'm talking about. Look,
I don't feel like I can
Froning
speak.
and Frazier both had it, but not like in combat ways. They both had it, and Tia has it in competition ways. When they're out there on the field, they're looking left and right and seeing, you know, people go out there and go, I just play my game and I just want to do the best I can. You're fucking losing when you talk like that. You're gonna lose. You're not a champion like those guys are. Every one of them, when they're out there, they're not thinking about doing the best they can. They might be thinking about their plan, and they might create a plan and have an idea of what they're going to do, but they're also scanning, looking left and right to see where everyone else, oh shit, now I got to abandon my plan and push it a little harder. And same thing, so like in this fight game, like he has that tenacity and that fight, Josh does, that I don't know if Jacob does.
So I'm going to ask you the question again, and I think you're having trouble answering it because Josh is your buddy. Who's the better athlete?
Well, to see the better athlete, I'd like to see some more athletic skills. So I'd like to see some more throwing. I'd like to see some more...
Let's get a little one-on-one soccer.
Soccer, basketball, more... you can be the fittest alive and not the best athlete in a group of people. Like, Froning's an amazing athlete. I don't know how good of an athlete Matt is. He's athletic. I mean, to do these movements and do the things he is, he's incredibly athletic. But, like, you look at Froning and flag football, he excels. Baseball, he excels.
Right.
Played basketball with him, he excels. Like, he's really well-rounded in those type of things.
Can you beat Rich in basketball?
For sure.
Yesterday when on the podcast, I think Josh told me, I have another podcast, Josh, Matt and Sevan podcast.
I haven't seen it.
This is the Sevan podcast. And
well, I thought we were doing the Josh, Sevan, and Matt one.
we are. Shh, Josh, Matt, quiet. Josh told me he's weighs 165.
Wow. That's not good.
No, that's not good, right?
Hepner probably weighs 185, 190 easily.
Yeah. And he's just a piece of steel, Hepner.
Yeah, that doesn't play well for Josh. They have weight limits, right?
Well, what's funny is the fight was signed, and then when I talked to Josh about it on the show, he says stuff like, well, yeah, we're trying to get the max weight limit at 190. But 190 doesn't
help Josh.
I think in some states, some sanctioned events, legally you can't even have more than a 40-pound weight difference. And that was one of the problems with Mayweather and Logan Paul, that even as an exhibition match, there are rules. You can't just have a fucking 100-pound guy fight a 200-pound guy. There's laws against it. That. So you're sticking with Josh, even at 165. You want to change your opinion?
Nope.
Alrighty. Would you ever do a boxing match?
No.
Never.
Here's the thing. I respect that sport a lot, and I'm a huge fan, and I'm not a fan of these celebrity boxing matches.
I am.
Yeah, they're popular. I watch them, but it doesn't mean, there might be a point where I stop watching them.
Right.
I don't want to disrespect the sport like that. Who the fuck am I? Who am I to step in a boxing ring other than a popular figure in CrossFit? And I don't think that should be my point of entry to do something like this. I don't want to do it for that reason. Like, I don't want to use my...
I'm not convinced. I think you would do it. I think someone could goad you into it.
With the right amount of money, maybe.
Okay, last question. How long are you going to do this gig as the director of the CrossFit Games?
It's a good question. I'm not thinking about like that right now, especially as I'm making all this and programming it. Like, I'm not thinking, well, when am I going to rotate out? It's been 15 years of doing it, and I've never really thought of transitioning out. But throughout those years, there's been little things I've given more, like I've let go of in terms of, especially with programming. There's pieces where I let the team work on and program rather than me doing completely. So that might happen naturally over time, you know, where it's like, okay, you guys are now programming more of this, not all of it, but more of it. And I mean, I don't see myself not doing it for a while, but I don't also think about it too often.
Dana White is significantly older than you. I'm guessing at least 15 years older than you. But he's been doing the UFC for 30 years. And to be honest, like if I watch the weigh-ins, but if he's not doing the weigh-ins and it's like one of the other guys who I like, I just don't watch the weigh-ins. Because part of the dynamic is just seeing him with the...
This is going to be a really unpopular statement that people will try to probably pick apart and break down. But like,
Let's cut the show here.
He's way more in everything than I am. And
Yes.
and that is by design.
Yes.
I purposely like... Look
And
at
he's good at it.
No, he is good at it, but like, I'm not in everything, and I try not to be in everything like he is. So I'm not trying at all to emulate how he does things or his style. If I was, you'd see me on all the update shows. You see me like, I'd be way more out there. We don't need that. I don't need that.
It makes me uncomfortable that your water's open and close enough to your computer that if it falls in, it goes into your
I already
keyboard.
had some water on my keyboard a minute ago. I was just wiping it off.
And that's probably not even your computer. Probably CrossFit bought that for you. So it's kind of disrespecting your
This
company's
one's from
equipment.
Greg,
Oh.
so it's mine now.
That's some old school shit.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thank you.